So good morning to all of you. Let me first explain to you the essence of this new initiative on the part of our institute. As all of you know, in the civil service examination, especially in the mains examination, answer writing is the most important part of your preparation. If we divide your preparation into different parts, first part is related to gaining new information. Second part is about analyzing the information. Third part is about the answer writing. What we can see among the UPSC aspirants over the years is that they are very good with this one, thanks to the availability of so much of material online and offline. There is no problem with this information. There is no problem with the first part. Second part, they face difficulty, because when you read so many articles in newspapers, when you look into so many opinions in newspapers about the same concept, it becomes almost difficult for them to know what is right and what is wrong. And the third one is the most important one, answer writing. This is where the most difficult part of your preparation. Why? Because you might have analyzed better, but as an examiner, I would like to see what you have written in the answer sheet, because there is no way I am going to connect with you to know about your opinions and views. This entire communication is what we call one-way communication. So what the most important aspect is how you are going to present your answer, your opinions, your views, your analysis, your presentation. That is the reason why we have taken up this initiative. So you will be writing at least minimum 80 answers in the next 3 months or so. I am saying I am putting it minimum in the next 3 months or so, covering different parts of GS. And what I will be doing on my part is, I will be giving you the correct analysis about how to write answers. It is not about writing more answers. Definitely it is said that practice makes one perfect, but writing only more number of answers will not solve your problem. You should know what are your mistakes. You should know where you are going wrong. That is when you can become more perfect. And as part of, again, as I said, this initiative, you should be able to know where you are going wrong and how to improve. This is the essence of the whole initiative. So you will be writing every day one answer. And another important part of this initiative is that if you are writing one answer every day, it gives you some kind of a discipline which is necessary for this examination. Now that the examination is postponed, people tend to relax, and they might be thinking that we have a lot of time, and they might be thinking that we can do the things later. This will give you a little bit more urgency to your preparation. It can instill the much needed discipline in your preparation. So what we will be doing is that we will have these different papers of GS. I will be giving you what are the questions that are going to be for the next 4 days. so that you can prepare from those topics. For example, from today onwards, that is 12th, 13th, 15th and 16th. These 4 days you will have questions from ethics, because this is one of the most important papers of your general studies. This is where your chances are almost will be determined in terms of whether you are getting into services or not. So I am starting with this ethics. So for the next 4 days you will be getting questions from ethics paper, and after that I will be discussing the questions. After that I will be giving you again what are the other topics that we will be dealing with in the coming days. So this is how we shall be proceeding. Apart from that, I would request you to upload your answers in our Telegram group, so that you can read the answers of you other people who are writing answers. You can learn new things from other answers, because there are so many ways, there are so many opinions, there are so many views. As we study in our ethics paper, truth may be one, but it can be told in different ways. Truth can be analyzed from different perspectives. In the same manner, when you are writing answers, there is no single answer which can be called absolute. Every person can have his own opinion analysis, and when you are reading the other answers, you will be developing you will be expanding your horizons, you will be developing a better analysis also. This is the heart of the entire initiative. Those who have not joined the Telegram group, I request you to immediately join the Telegram group. To join this Telegram group, you can contact Mr. Vikas Bharadwaj. His number is 844-753-2310. You can send him a message, and he will include you in the Telegram group. So this is what about the initiative. Coming back, as part of our schedule, every Friday we have this current affairs discussion regarding various topics of general studies, especially from mains perspective. For example, one day we can have discussion on economy, other day it can be on social issues, next will be on disaster management, other day it can be on internal security, another day it can be on ethics, and other day on international relations, polity, governance. We will be discussing all these things from current affairs perspective. So as part of this current affairs discussion, today let me take up Indian economy. We will be looking at the things in a broad manner, and we can go in depth as and when it is required. If you look at in the last 4 months, if you look at it, there are only 2 things people are worried about. One is corona, second one is economy. As someone said, if the history of the world has to be written, it has to be BC and AC, not AD. BC means before corona, AC means after corona. So this is one of the most seminal events that have taken place in our recent history. And you must have, I don't have to discuss too much about corona, because all of you have become part of it or witnessing it. So let us focus on economy. What we are going to do. What is the status of Indian economy? What kind of challenges this corona has posed to Indian economy? And what are the challenges related to global economy? And how we are going to deal with all those things. This is what the crux of today's discussion. So since all of you are sitting at home for the last 3.5 months, you must have been reading so many newspapers. You must have been going to so much of analysis about economy. We have Niti Aayog. We have Finance Ministry. We have these think tanks. And we have this PMO. All of them are coming out with so much of analysis about economy. What is the present situation? And how to deal with the situation? What is going to be the future? There is so much of analysis. There is so much of, there is glut of information in the market. So how to separate the wheat from chaff? This is what we must be looking at. And most importantly, you should know what is important from examination point of view. Because in our tendency, because of uncertainty, related to the preparation for this examination, because of the insecurity involved in the whole process, we tend to overread, and that can be problematic also. We tend to complicate the things. That will be suicidal. So what we must remember is that when we are dealing with these economic aspects, we should be as much simple, as much clear as we can be. How to do that? So if I were to present you the gist of what happened in the last 4 months or so, there are some words which are being repeated by everyone. People are talking about supply side economics. People are talking about demand side. People are talking about fiscal policy initiatives. People are talking about monetary policy initiatives. They are talking about the stimulus packages. Why and how they are going to be effective or they are not going to be effective. Apart from this, as part of the reform process, the government has come out with so many radical reforms also. So let us try to understand all these concepts in a very simple manner. Then either we can come to what are these packages and how effective they are going to be. Let us try to look at those who are familiar with economics. I am talking about the theoretical aspects of economics. There is always either two dimensions to it. What is called supply and demand. It is supply and demand at the end of the day which determine the prices, which influences the functioning of the whole system. And both of them are interrelated. Both of them are interrelated. Let us try to understand what is this one. To understand this, we have to go back to one of very famous classical economists, J.B. Say, John Baptist Say. He had come out with a very popular economic theory. He has explained it in a very simple one single sentence. He said that supply creates its own demand. Please remember, this is very, very significant. This is a very, very significant from the perspective of the economic stimulus package announced by the government of India, which is worth 20 lakh crores. This economic stimulus package announced by the government of India is based on this principle. John Baptist said, supply creates its own demand. So what do we mean by this? What do we understand by this? It means that if we concentrate on the supply side of economy, automatically demand will be generated. So we don't have to do anything special as such to create additional demand. Supply will itself create additional demand. For those who are not too much familiar with economics, it looks difficult to understand. So let us try to simplify it further. What do we mean by supply? It means concentrating on the production side. It means increasing the output. It means increasing the output. So, what does it mean? For example, let us assume that the government, in order to revive the economy, like what the present government is planning to do, is focusing on this supply side. How will the government do that? By giving incentives to producers. By giving incentives to producers. How to give incentives to producers? What kind of incentives? Make land available to them at cheaper rates. Ensure that labor is also available at competitive rates. Ensure that technology is also available to them. Technology and capital is available to them. Ensure that the interest rates are very less so that the cost of production will come down. Cost of production will come down. When you are doing all these things, what says law of market says is that when land is freely available, as an entrepreneur, if I am starting a factory or an industry, I require land. So if the land is available to me, then what will I do? I will buy the land without any hassles, without any problems. And if it is less, the prices are less, it makes my job much more easier. Similarly, labor. If you happen to see recently some of the state governments, the move has also been criticized by various economists also, that's a different thing. They have announced changes to their labor laws. And what is the objective of the changes to labor laws? To make it flexible, to make it easier, to make it profitable for the industrialist to employ labor. Similarly, this technology and capital, government, what the government can do is, government can reduce the import duties on technology. Government can encourage the domestic producers to produce it at cheaper rates. Government can focus on innovation. The other day, yesterday, our Prime Minister was speaking in this conference, wherein he spoke about 5 I's. We'll talk about them later. So this is what the government will be doing, and most importantly, reducing the interest rates, the burden of interest, because almost every business has to be run on taking loans only. So what the intention, the idea behind the entire process is that process is that when as an entrepreneur I am buying land, it means that I am putting money in the hands of landlord. I am employing labor. It means that I am paying wages to laborers. I am buying technology and capital. It means that I am creating demand for their products. So what happens when all these sections receive income? They will demand more goods and services. They will demand more goods and services. When they demand more goods and services, in the short run, you cannot increase the prices, you cannot increase the supply. So the prices will go up. When the prices will go up, profits will go up. When the profits will go up, there will be more investment, and which ultimately results in economic revival. Interestingly, this JB principle was also used by another famous economist, John Maynard Keynes, when he spoke about government investment as an antidote to depression, Great Depression of 1930s, wherein by focusing on this supply side, you will be generating demand. This is what the idea behind our present government's initiatives. Let us focus on the supply side. Automatically, it will generate demand. If you look at the 20 lakh crore package announced by the government of India, almost all initiatives can be understood from this perspective. Everything. Read all the initiatives, you can easily understand from this perspective. So if I am a producer and I am investing 100 rupees, let us assume that in all these things I am investing 100 rupees, I am generating a demand equal to 100 rupees in the market by giving income to the people, by giving more income to the people. And as John Maynard Keynes pointed out, when people income increases, there will be multiplier effect. Keynes called it as investment multiplier, which can revive the economic system. So this is what we call the concept behind the fiscal stimulus package announced by the government of India. Now let us proceed further and see what are the weaknesses, what are the problems, and what are the challenges to this fiscal stimulus package. Why the package has been criticized? Is the criticism fair and justified? And ultimately what should be done? Again, to understand all these things, we must have again little bit theoretical knowledge about economics. What is called consumer behavior? What is called consumer behavior? In economics, for a long period of time, it was dominated by classical economists. And these classical economists their entire theory was based on the assumption of consumer behavior, what is called rational. And what is this rational consumer behavior? Very simple. As a consumer, I will demand more goods at less price because my objective is to maximize their satisfaction. My objective is to maximize my own satisfaction. And I believe that I can maximize satisfaction only when I am able to get more goods at less prices. This is what classical economics says. Now, what is the problem here? Where is the problem here? The basic problem here is that as human beings, we are never rational. We can never be rational also. We always take decisions on the basis of our emotions. And again, going back, as John Maynard Keynes has rightly said, our decisions are never based on what is happening at the present. Please remember, this is the most important point you have to remember. As a consumer, as a producer, my decisions are not based on what is the situation at the present. My decisions will always be based on what is going to happen in the future. What is going to happen in the future? Say, what will happen after 1 month, after 2 months, after 6 months, after 1 year. So, as a consumer, all my decisions will be about what is going to happen in the future. In the same manner, a producer also will be doing the same thing. A producer also will be basing all his decisions only on what is going to happen in the future. If this is the case, then what is the problem? What is the problem? There is no problem except that we don't know anything about the future. What you must remember here is that the difference between Great Depression of 1930s, global recession of 2009 and the present global economic situation. What is the difference here? The difference here is that both the problems of earlier times were caused by imperfect functioning of markets, which could have been easily controlled and regulated by the governments. That means problems were definitely severe. Nobody can say that problems were not severe, but the solutions were also easy. That means the solutions are in the hands of the governments, markets, global institutions, and everyone else. So it was not difficult to overcome those tragic circumstances. It was not at all difficult. With a little bit of determination, a little bit of determination, with a little bit of help from economic theories, we could easily overcome. Now, what is the problem? The problem is we don't know anything. We don't know when this corona crisis are going to end. We don't know when the vaccine will come. We don't know whether the vaccine will be effective or not. We don't know when the crisis is going to end forever completely. That is where the basic problem is. Please remember, earlier problems were purely economic in nature. The present problem has nothing to do with economy. The present problem is created by external circumstances. Over which the governments, markets, institutions have absolutely no control. It is created by external circumstances. But it is having a huge adverse impact on functioning of economic systems. Under these circumstances, whatever the countries around the world do to overcome the economic crisis, whatever the policies they come out with, stimulus packages and fiscal policy measures, monetary policy measures, stimulus packages, all these things, they are mostly what we call trial and error methods only. Experiments. They are mostly what we call trial and error methods only. So we cannot blame the governments for coming out with policies, because they don't know what is going to be the outcome of the policies. Why? Because, as I said, external circumstances for which we don't have any control. Continuing with this, the worst part of the whole process is that this corona crisis, they are only getting more complicated. It has changed so many, this corona has changed itself in the last few months in different parts of the world. And it is different from other viruses that had hit the world, where it is SARS, Ebola, AIDS, everything else, because their impact was limited. Whereas it can spread very easily. Mortality rates might be very less, but the spread of the virus is very fast, dangerous. So the countries around the world, they have to fight on two fronts. One is health, second one is economy. Unfortunately, this health requires economy. Health requires economy. Health infrastructure can be improved only when your economy is progressing. So this is the present situation. As I said, please try to understand the difference between what it was earlier, the economic crisis, and what is the problem with this present economic crisis. So proceeding further, now we have seen all the problems and everything else. Proceeding further, let us look at the responses of different countries around the world. As I said, the responses of different countries around the world focused on these two aspects: boosting the supply side and focusing on demand side to revive their economies. And how to increase the demand? By putting money in the hands of the people. This is what John Maynard Keynes also had suggested long time back. to overcome the Great Depression. He said that put money in the hands of the people, put money in their pockets, put money in the hands of everyone, so that they will generate demand, and this demand can again revive the economy. That is what he had suggested. That is the reason why he had spoken about expansionary fiscal policy. And you can put money in the hands of the people in two ways. One is increasing their incomes, direct benefit transfers, give their cash. Second one is investment. This is for consumers, this is for producers. This is for producers. And this investment, you can say, is part of supply side. And this can be done with the help of what we call monetary policy. It can be done with the help of fiscal policy also, but mostly it is done with the help of monetary policy. And all the countries around the world, as I have mentioned, have opted broadly for these measures only, depending on the strength of their economies. For example, United States of America has announced this economic package running into trillions of dollars. The financial package announced by the United States of America is equal to India's GDP, more than India's GDP. In fact, it is more than India's GDP. As the government of India yesterday has mentioned, the financial package announced by India is more than Pakistan GDP. This is what we call theory of relativity, Einstein. What is big and what is small? Everything is relative. USA has announced more than $3 trillion of financial package, which is more than our GDP. India has announced 20 lakh crore rupees financial package, stimulus, which is more than Pakistan GDP. Yesterday you must have seen Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has offered his assistance to India in terms of money transfer. And India politely replied that, thank you very much. The financial package that we have announced is more than your GDP. That speaks more than what is necessary. So coming back here, it is not about the volume of the financial stimulus package that you are announcing. What really matters is how effective it is going to be in terms of reviving your economy. How effective it is going to be. So, if we have to analyze how effective it is going to be, again, we have to go back to economic theory. Please remember, analysis means application of the theory to present day events. Most of the economic theories which I am telling you right now, you might be knowing, but application is what really matters. If you go back to this international trade economic theory, the famous statement that is made in international trade, it is said that trade is an engine of growth. What it means? It means that if we have to ensure rapid economic growth, the most important role has to be played by trade. Without expanding your trade, especially international trade, it is not possible to revive your economy. I'll just give you one simple example here, simple fact, not example. When India was growing at 9%, between say 2005 and 2008 or 9. These were the years when the economy was growing at 9%. Our exports were growing at around 28%. Our exports were growing at around 28%. Now, if you look at the statistics, our growth rate has come down drastically. If you look at the last quarter growth rate, according to Government of India, it is around 3%. And you can see the exports. They have stagnated, they had come down. So, what you must remember here is that, if you have to boost your economy, there is no other way out except improving your trade prospects. And that is where again the problem is. What is the problem here? The problem here is that with this corona crisis, almost all the countries in the world are opting for autarky, that is closed economic systems. The process had begun much before this corona had hit us, thanks to US-China trade war, thanks to US, Trump's America First policy. America first and world last, not LAST, LOST. So what happened? Automatically the volume of global trade has come down even before corona. Now with corona, the problem has accentuated further. So under these circumstances, if India has to revive itself in the immediate short term, or in the medium term, or in the long term, global economic conditions must change for better. So, if you remember, our Prime Minister, he had come out with this slogan, Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is very good, catchy. In fact, if you look at the entire economic history of India since independence, what you can say is that it is more about politics than economics. That is, successive prime ministers have used economy as a tool to win elections and retain power than focusing truly on improving the economic systems. Only one prime minister has done it, and he had lost elections immediately. P.V. Narasimha Rao, 1991. He introduced economic reforms. So that's a different thing. So when our Prime Minister talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat, if we loosely translate that into English, self-reliance. So let us try to understand what is this and how can we link it to this economic revival and global economic conditions. Let us try to understand these things in a little bit more, as I said, simpler manner. When we opted for socialism and autarky immediately after independence, one of the goals of government was what it was known as self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency. What is this self-sufficiency and how It is different from the self-reliance that our Prime Minister is talking about now. As part of self-sufficiency, the Government of India in its industrial policy resolutions, especially 1955, I think 1948, 1955, it has said that we must be able to produce everything that is being consumed in the country. We should not be dependent on any other country for our consumption purposes. That means since we are living in autarky, we should not depend. We should be able to produce everything in our country. We should be able to either provide to our people everything on our own without depending on other countries. That is the reason why one of the byproducts of this self-sufficiency was import substitution. So as part of this, we imposed a huge amount of tariffs on imports to discourage those imports. We have given protection to our domestic producers also. Of course, this policy was a spectacular failure. Country had become more dependent. That's a different thing, because as I said, it is the politics that dominates economics in our country, unfortunately. Now coming back, what is this self-reliance? And what is the key difference here? So some time back, I think a few days back, Niti Aayog CEO, he had written an article and he said that this self-reliance is different. What is the difference here he was talking about? He said that when we are talking about self-reliant, we have to become something like China. That is, we should be able to produce cheap and quality products so that we would be able to make best use of the global economic conditions by expanding our exports. Why this statement was made? Why? Because after this corona, almost every country in the world started looking at China as the major culprit, main villain, which it is. So it is believed that most of the MNCs that are operating from China will go out of this country and look for better destinations. As part of this Atmanirbhar Bharat project, the government believes that India has the necessary capability to attract those MNCs and in the process benefit out of these developments. That is the essence of what we call self-reliance. And it is the difference between self-reliance and self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is only complete autarky. Self-reliance is about making best use of globalization. As we study, it is about think globally and act locally, focusing on local strengths, exploiting them. So this is what. Now, as I said earlier, this is closely linked to the global economic conditions. Unfortunately, what are the global economic conditions? Global economic conditions are such that countries around the world at present are moving more towards protectionism. Under these circumstances, is it possible for us to expand our trade like what China had done between 1990 and 2018? That is one question our policy makers will have to take into consideration. In the immediate short term, the answer is an emphatic no. The government realizes this also. That is the reason why this Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India is a mostly medium and long-term economic policy. So proceeding further, to make this self-reliant India successful as part of the financial package to the tune of 20 lakh crores, the government had come out with various initiatives. The government has said that land bank, because to set up industries you require land. The government had said that it had identified thousands of hectares of land which can be made easily available to the industries. The government had announced reforms in agriculture to make agriculture more profitable. The government had come out with a huge package for MSMEs. The government had eased norms related to FDA to attract more FDA. The government is focusing on reforming labor laws. Next, the government also focusing on increasing revenues by disinvesting from public sector enterprises, so that money can be used to finance infrastructure, education and health. And then government also, to encourage local entrepreneurs, had come out with package for these street vendors also. Around 50 lakh street vendors will be given 50,000 rupees each loan. Like this. All this is a part of the financial stimulus package announced by the Government of India. And then on the supply side, RBI was also asked to come out with various initiatives. In fact, most of these initiatives will be implemented with the help of RBI. RBI has progressively reduced repo rates and reverse repo rates, which is the demand of the industry for a long period of time. And it has also released more money to banks so that they can give more loans. And with inflation under control, with agriculture progressing well, the only bright spot in an otherwise gloomy economy at this point of time is agriculture performance, almost 4%. The government believes that we can revive the economy. So this is the essence of what the government has planned in the last few months. It has targeted all the sections of society. And then, of course, as part of this demand side, government has distributed money by putting money in the accounts of women, transferred money to them every month 500 rupees. Along with this, government also has implemented this agriculture, wherein it has transferred money into the accounts of farmers, 6,000 rupees per month. So these demand side measures coupled with all these supply side reforms, government believes that we can definitely revive the economic system. So the question that is in front of us is it possible to revive the economic system with these measures? First. Second, what are the challenges? What are the problems with these measures? Third, what should be done? These are the three questions that we have to answer. As I said, let us try to look at all these things again from the perspective of a common man. This is what we say. Policy makers always require common sense, but not wisdom or intelligence. Let us see, by analyzing all these measures, whether they will be successful or not. Starting with agriculture. As you can see, government has focused on both demand side and supply side. As part of, I think, I don't exactly remember the schemes. Our Prime Minister has a habit of announcing one scheme a day. Since all of you are preparing for UPSC examination, you have no option but to remember all the schemes. I think the name of the scheme is Pradhan Mantri Krishi Kalyan Yojana, something like that. You can correct me if I am wrong. Wherein, the government would be transferring money into the accounts of farmers, 6,000 rupees per month. The government has said that they will increase the amount also over a period of time. As part of supply side reforms, the government has said that it will implement two important reforms. To understand these reforms, we should know about the state of agriculture in India. If we look at agricultural policy of successive governments since independence till now, all these agricultural policies focused only on consumers, but never on producers. They only focused on consumers but never on producers. I'll give you the best example. Imagine you are Mukesh Ambani. Just imagine. Beyond that, I cannot do anything. Even difficult to imagine also. And government comes and tells you that you can sell your product only at the price fixed by the government. Government will come and tell you that you can sell your product only at the place decided by the government. Government will come and tell you that the quality, everything will be decided by the government. Quality and quantity. How much you have to produce, quantity, how much you have to produce. Will you do business? You will say that get lost, I will not do business. But that is what the government has done with our farmers, that is the producers, in the last 70 years. Farmers are not given freedom to produce what they want. They are not given freedom to sell where they want. They are not given freedom to determine the prices. Everything is done by the government. Why? Because, as I said, if I have to say, agriculture is the only industry in India where government has complete control over policies. Why? Because government is only concerned about consumers. That is, one, prices, second one is availability. That is the reason why it is said that Indian farmer cries more when there is abundancy of, when there is a excess production than scarcity of output. Why? Because excess production means that government will not buy his product. It means that he does not have any capacity to store his product. It means that he cannot export his product. It means that he cannot determine the price of the product. So, Indian farmer, whether it is scarcity or glut, he only suffers. As part of the recent changes announced by the Agriculture Ministry, the focus of agriculture policy of the government has shifted from consumer to producer. The focus is more on increasing the income because output is already there. The focus is more on making agriculture profitable to farmers than on fixing the prices and controlling the output. Why this change has happened? This change has happened because of two reasons. One, consumers in India, their purchasing power has increased considerably over a period of time. Second, India has one of the largest welfareist states, wherein as part of Food Security Act, almost 66% of our country is covered under it. So the government is not unduly worried about prices and output, controlling the prices and output. Now the government is focusing more on increasing the incomes of farmers. That is where we must see the agricultural policy that was announced by the government recently. So what is the policy? Two important things. One is Essential Commodities Act. Second one is this abolishing APMCs. These two were the major changes. This Essential Commodities Act was passed in 1955 when India was a scarcity economy. Nothing was available. As part of this Essential Commodities Act, the government can raid producers, they can arrest them, they can take criminal conduct criminal proceedings against them. Hoarding, black marketing, all of them are banned. The objective is to ensure continuous supply of goods and at reasonable prices. Now, when we talk about these essential commodities, we can divide them into two parts. One is perishables, second one is non-perishables. Perishables, as you know, as the name itself indicates, their lifetime is only 24 hours, 48 hours, maximum 72 hours, like milk, vegetables, fruits. Non-perishables, durables. So this is what the essence of this act. Now what is the problem? The problem is that if I am a farmer, if there is excess production, for example, as all of you know, government announces MSP for 24 crops, but in reality it buys only 2 crops, rice and wheat, especially vegetables and all these things. Farmers have no option. So when there is glut in the market, the farmer suffers. Why? Because the prices will crash. He cannot hoard them, he cannot store them, he cannot wait for the prices to go up again. When there is scarcity in the market, it is the middlemen who will benefit. Why? Because farmers will sell their product to middlemen, and this middleman will be the one who sells it to consumers. Either way, farmers never benefited out of this. Did the consumers benefit? Not at all. Why? Because the prices kept on fluctuating. If you look at one of the major weaknesses of our economic policy since independence has been our complete inability to control the prices, inflation, especially in essential products. So that is the reason why, as part of the recent radical reform that the Ministry of Agriculture has come out with, they said that they are removing this Essential Commodity Act. What are the benefits here? The benefit here is that they can store the food grains, they can wait for the market to revive, then they can sell them in the market. Another important benefit here is that it will improve agricultural infrastructure. Thanks to this Essential Commodities Act, there was absolutely no warehousing and storage facilities in India, especially for perishables. Absolutely no. Why? Because nobody wants to invest. Because if you are storing means you are a black marketer, immediately the government will come, the Inspector Raj, the government inspectors will come, they will raid, they will take away all your products, they file criminal charges against you. So nobody wants to invest. That is the reason why infrastructure in agriculture is almost nil in our country. Thanks to this changes, it is believed that there will be more infrastructure coming into agriculture sector. If this is the case, we should welcome it, but there is some problem. What is the problem here? The government still retained its control. How? Government has said that it will take average prices of these products over a period of 5 years, and the present prices are 50% more than the average prices, then the government can again impose the limits. This is where the problem. In case of non-perishables, It is 100%. The problem is that either do it fully or don't do it. You are giving it with the right hand and taking everything with the left hand. Let us take the example. Average prices of, say, onions are around, say, 20 rupees per kilo in the last 5 years. As all of you know, every year towards the end of a monsoon season, the prices of onions will always go up, especially towards the end of November, December and January. They will go up to 80 rupees and 100 rupees. This is a annual phenomenon. Then immediately government will come and take action against them. So under these circumstances, why anyone on earth will spend money on storage houses, warehouses and other things? So that is where the problem here is. So the basic thing here is that the government wants to retain control in the name of protecting consumers. With so much of limitations, controls and regulations, is it possible for you to attract investment in infrastructure? That is one big question that we have to answer. Why? Because this is, as I said, we call them as top: tomatoes, onions and potatoes. They keep on fluctuating. Why? Because they are seasonal. If you try to impose restrictions saying that if it is more than 50%, then we will again use our powers, nobody will come and invest. The government has to look at this one. Next one is these APMCs. The government has said that this APMCs is part of a socialistic Raj, which had become citadels of corruption. They are controlled by local politicians who wants to make sure that farmers would be the last beneficiaries of these initiatives. Now the government has said that now farmers can sell their product anywhere else in the country. He can fix the price also. He can find out his buyers also. Very good initiative on paper. But the difficult thing is implementing in reality. Why? As you know, agriculture is part of the state subject. Every state has its own APMC acts. Most importantly, they are all controlled by politicians. For farmers to benefit really out of this radical reform, for them to benefit out of this radical reform, we must create necessary infrastructure. Without creating necessary infrastructure, this reform will remain only on paper. First, farmers must have knowledge about prices in different parts of the country for their products. Second, farmers must have the ability to transport their products to different parts of the country. Third, there must be continuous connect between farmer and buyers in different parts of the country. Connect between farmers and buyers. Fourth and most important, they must have the ability to store their products for a long period of time. Fifth, as I said, the state governments must agree for all these reforms. without focusing on any of these things, and you say that we are giving freedom to the farmers, it is just like saying that India got freedom in 1947. Beyond that, nothing else. So you implement all these reforms first, then come to the other one. So when we are talking about giving farmers the opportunity to fix their prices and also determine their buyers, first create abilities in them. That is what Amartya Sen talks about all the time. First enable them, create abilities in them. Then only these reforms can be successful. So this is about agriculture. As you know, what is the present situation, what are the reforms introduced by the government, why those reforms cannot be effective, and what should be done. Please remember, these are the questions. If you look at UPSC mains paper, in the last few years or so, out of 10 questions they are asking from economy, 4 are from only agriculture. I don't have to tell you the importance of agriculture. You must have complete conceptual clarity. So let us look at other initiatives of the government as part of this fiscal stimulus package and Atmanirbhar Bharat and everything else. So the underlying idea behind this Atmanirbhar Bharat is that most of the companies from China, MNCs, are planning to vacate China and look for greener pastures. And India, we believe that we are that country, we are that dreamland wherein they would automatically come and invest. This is what the underlying assumption. What is the ground level reality? Recently, some study was published. Out of 100 MNCs, this is only some case study that was done, who have shown willingness to leave China, 40% of them have gone to Malaysia and Thailand. India was attracting only 4% of them. Their first preference is only 4%. You can imagine how difficult it would be for us to make Atmanirbhar Bharat successful. Before this Atmanirbhar Bharat, our Prime Minister had come out with another slogan, Make in India. This Atmanirbhar Bharat is an extension of Make in India only. So what is the problem here? The problem here is everything. For example, land. The government has said that it has identified the land, but land is part of the state list. Some land is part of central list. Some land belongs to defense and private parties. So I am a foreign investor and I am coming and I want to acquire land. The moment I acquire land, anyone can approach judiciary, file a PAL, saying that my land was encroached. Because unfortunately in India, land deeds are not transparent. So this is the first problem. Now, labor. 1948 Minimum Wages Act and other labor laws. If you look at all the labor laws, they are part of what we call socialistic Raj, which promoted inefficiency, trade unionism, and politicization. Labor reforms we are yet to implement. Sometime back, the government of India had taken up the initiative of implementing labor reforms. The bill was brought in Parliament also. Unfortunately, the discussion did not take place. It is going on right now. Some of the state governments recently, you must have seen, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, had come out with some labor reforms which have been severely criticized. Why? Because even though they were called labor reforms, they were anti-labor, in the sense that you are giving more powers to the industrialists to exploit labor. And most importantly, if you look at the basic problem, migrant labor, nobody is addressing them. Labor in India don't have any financial security, physical security, health, and access to basic needs of life. They are the most completely forgotten. And more importantly, the notion that India has cheap labor, we have to rethink about this. Why? Because with cost of living increasing by day, you have to increase the wages also, the minimum wages. Please remember, most of the factories and industries are coming up in metro towns, metropolitan cities, wherein the cost of living is very high. Cost of living in Bombay, or what you call it as Mumbai, is very high compared to cost of living in a village in Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. If as a laborer you are working in Bombay, you are paid wages according to that cost of living. He cannot be paid wages according to what is the cost of living in a village in Mumbai, in UP or Bihar. So obviously the benefit, the government which you are talking about in terms of cheap labor, is not there at the ground level. Why? Because this so-called cheap labor is available only in villages where there are no industries. This is what we say, microeconomics is very important. At the macro level, you can talk about so many things, but at the ground level, the situation is completely different. As part of labor reforms, the government is talking about all these things, but implementing is where India is always finding itself on the failure front. Next important problem related to this Atmanirbhar Bharat is about technology. This is the problem we faced in Make in India also. As we have mentioned some time back, self-reliance is different from self-sufficiency. As part of self-reliant, what we are saying is that we are willing to import the necessary technology and capital, but the production will be done here. Very good idea, whose time is yet to come in India. Why? Because the present government, if you look at the economic policies of the present government in the past few years, they are doing exactly opposite. What? They have increased customs duties on imports. And you will be surprised to know that the custom duties on imports on certain products now are almost equal to what it was before 1991. Under these circumstances, is it possible for us to make self-reliant India successful. You cannot have the cake and eat it too also. That is what the government is trying to be. On the one hand, government by increasing the custom duties wants to increase its revenues. On the other hand, it wants to ensure that programs like Make in India can be successful. We cannot have both the things. For example, if you look at it, most of the textile and apparel industries from China, they are going to Bangladesh now. They are not coming to India. Why? Because, as I said, the same problem. India tariffs are very high. When Donald Trump says that India is a tariff king, he is not far from reality. If you want to attract, create the necessary conditions. Next problem, this is the one which has been criticized in the media in the last few days or so, as part of the fiscal stimulus package announced by the Prime Minister. As I said, most of the fiscal stimulus package focused on supply side. What is this here? What is the problem here? So the government says that we have Reserve Bank of India, which will be liberal in giving financial assistance to commercial banks. Who will be liberal in providing loans to producers, both big and small. Please remember the chain of events here. Then these producers and both big and small, they will be getting cheap credit because RBI reduced repo rate and reverse repo rate. And with this cheap credit, they will employ people, they will buy raw material, buy capital, and this will create additional demand in the market. As we have studied some time back, Say's law of markets, supply creating its own demand. This is the entire idea behind this 20 lakh crore economic stimulus package announced by the government. So what is the problem here? RBI in the last few months has given more money to the banks as part of what we call expansionary monetary policy. Please remember, this entire thing is a part of monetary policy. Here in this entire chain of events, we don't see any direct government intervention. Sorry, this entire thing is related to completely banking and financial system. What is the problem here? As I said, in the last few months, RBI has given money to banks. These are all the estimates only, we don't know exactly the reality. It is said that RBI had given around 4 lakh crores of rupees to banks. Some people say that 4 to 6 lakh crores. So that banks can give that money as loans to producers. What did the banks do? Banks are having excess liquidity. What did they do? They have rerouted the money to RBI. 8 lakh crores. RBI has given them 4 to 6 lakh crores, and banks have again put the money with the RBI again. One of the important functions of RBI if you have studied RBI, is banker's bank. That means I am a commercial bank and I am having excess liquidity with me. I don't know what to do with that money. If I keep that money with myself, I don't get anything. So I will put that money with the RBI, saying that keep it with you for 10 days, 15 days, and give me some interest rate, which I call it as these reverse repo rates. So banks have taken that money and put it again with the RBI only. Why? Because there is no demand. There is no demand. That is where it comes. As a producer, now if I consider myself as a producer, I will take loans. When do I take loans? Please remember, all these questions were asked in your prelims also, economy. As a producer, as an investor, I will take loans only when there is a demand for my products. I won't take loans because rate of interest is low. This is where the government is committing the mistake. Government is assuming that since the rate of interest is very less, since banks are willing to give liberal loans, automatically they will take loans. But in reality, this is not the case. As a producer, when I have excess liquidity with me, as a producer, when I have unsold stock with me, what is called inventories, why would I take fresh loans? When I don't take loans, even if the credit is cheap, I will not employ people, there will not be any demand. This is where the problem with the fiscal stimulus package. Why? Because this supply side economics can be successful only in the medium and long term. Please remember, supply side economics can be only successful in the medium and long term. If you want short term benefits, short term immediate changes, it has to be through what is called demand side economics. As we have mentioned again, the supply side economics is mostly related to monetary policy, whereas this demand side economics is mostly influenced by fiscal policy. This is where our policy makers at this point of time are moving in the wrong direction. Why and what should be done? So we have mentioned earlier, we are facing a highly uncertain future. Every business in the country has collapsed. Every business in the country has collapsed except politics. This is evergreen. You can see in Gujarat and Rajasthan, MLAs are again brought and sold. For politics, there is no depression. They are evergreen as long as we have political parties in the country. Except politics, every business in the country has collapsed. And worryingly, their expectations about the future are highly depressing in nature. It is said that unemployment rate in India at this point of time is 25%. That is, 1 out of every 4th person is unemployed. 1 out of every 4th person is unemployed. Then What is the consequence? When you are unemployed, you will not have any regular income. There is no income. When you don't have any income, there will be no demand. Demand will be zero. When there is no demand in the economic system, any amount of supply side measures will always be a failure. So in the short term, what should the government do? Let us see now what should the government do. Government has no option but to focus on generating demand. How to generate this demand? Can the government create employment immediately? Not at all. When you could not create employment in the last 70 years, where is the question of generating employment in the next 2 months? It is a pipe dream. It cannot do. Then what is the solution? Put income in the hands of the people. Keynes. Put money in the pockets of the people. How to put money in the pockets of people? As the government has done, these all those women who have received 500 rupees per month, make it 5,000 rupees per month. Give them 5,000 rupees per month for the next 4 months. Second, farmers, instead of 6,000 rupees, give them 12,000 rupees. Come out with a new program called unemployment allowance and give people this unemployment allowance for the next 6 months, at least 3,000 rupees per month. Ask them to register, give them unemployment allowance. Then create real income in the hands of people. How? By reducing oil prices. Very important measure. When the global crude prices have reached zero almost, still in India there is not even a reduction of a single paise in the prices of petroleum and diesel. If you go by the global crude prices at this point of time, without all the taxes that the government imposes, the price of petroleum and diesel should be in 20s and you are paying 80s. Obviously, when the prices go up, real income in the hands of people will always be coming down. The government does not realize it. The government treats these petrol prices, taxes on these petrol products, as a major source of income, which it should not be doing. Why? Because government collects all the money through taxes and the government thinks that money can be distributed here. There is huge amount of time lag. Today you are collecting, but the distribution will take place after 6 months or 1 year. Instead of that, give that money to the people directly. Let the petrol and diesel prices be reduced to 30 rupees, 40 rupees per litre, so that the transportation costs will come down. I am a farmer. The government has announced that I can sell my product. Say I am producing in Punjab and there is demand for my product in Bihar. If I have to send my product to Bihar, transportation costs will be so high that it becomes irrelevant. So let the transportation costs come down, so that it can help in reviving the economic system. This demand side, let the government, at least for the next 1 or 2 years, need not worry about fiscal deficits. The entire world knows that our fiscal deficit is in the range of 5 to 6%, even before Corona. We have manipulated the deficits that everyone knows. So why to be so rigid about these things. Let the fiscal deficit go up to 8%, no problem, 10%, let it go. Let the government opt for monetized deficit. That is, let the RBI print currency. Put the money in the hands of the people. Let us not worry about these rating agencies, global rating agencies. Investors will come if they find your country a haven for investment. They will not go by these global rating agencies. Let the government worry about its own people than what global rating agencies think about, and focus on all these things. Immediate demand side measures, and try to put more money. This is what one the government can do. Second one is, the government must create confidence in the people. This is where again a major problem. As I said, it is a consumer behavior, it is complete psychological. As John Maynard case says, psychological law of consumption. And it does not follow rationality. This is where again you require governance. This governance must create confidence in the people. Unfortunately, this is where central and state governments have completely failed again. They simply could not anticipate the problem of corona. Initially, they overestimated the problem. Now they are underestimating it. And finally, the entire health infrastructure in the country has collapsed. We will talk about health in some other class. Why, how it has collapsed. So the government must be able to instill confidence in the people that their future is safe, that the government will take care of them, that they did not worry about any kind of uncertainty by taking care of them. This is where the government should be focusing on most immediate effective either measures to help all those victims of corona, help all those migrants. What the government do is that government should think from the core of its heart. Don't think from the point of view of a cost benefit analysis. Let the government be more liberal in terms of its spending, taking care of the people, especially corona victims, migrants. Create confidence in them. Automatically economic revival will take place. Economic revival will be the outcome of all these measures. Economic revival cannot be the means to achieve all these things. It will be the outcome. That is what the government has to realize. It's a very long journey. At least the beginning should be made so that ultimately it can help the country in the short as well as long term. So this is the whole analysis about our economy, the stimulus package and everything else. Yesterday, as I said, while talking about our Prime Minister, what we can say is that the intentions are very good, but the problem is implementation. He talked about 5 I's. To revive economy: intention, investment, inclusion, infrastructure. And one more. See, the problem is that we can come out with as many slogans as we want. At the end of the day, you will judge a person or a government on the basis of what it does than on the basis of what it says. That is where the problem. what is required is governance, effective response mechanisms to instill confidence among the stakeholders, and that is where we are lacking now. All these things can be taken care of. So this is about the whole discussion about economy. If you have any doubts, any queries, any questions, you can put it on our Telegram group, or you can put it on NeoStencil. In the next class, I will be clearing all of them. And next Friday, we will be focusing on social issues. The most important one is migration, along with disaster management. Both of them can be asked for essay topics also. You can also study about these things. You can come out with your queries so that I can answer them in the next class. And one more thing, as I mentioned, please go through the articles that I am putting there on Telegram group. If you are reading those articles regularly for your mains, current affairs, everything, the preparation is done. You don't have to read unnecessarily too many things, because in newspapers they come out so many articles which are not necessary at all. For example, if you happen to see international relations, Indo-China, we have seen hundreds of articles, and in the examination you are writing only 150 words. Not worth it, cost benefit analysis. So you don't get unnecessarily emotional about reading everything in the newspapers. I will be putting so only very few of them. Just go through all those articles every day. And then in the last few days, I have asked the students to come out with their opinions, analysis of those articles also. Because reading the article is one thing, understanding and analyzing what are the mistakes, what are the errors in that article from analytical point of view. That also you can do it, and you can post your questions there. And today onwards, as I said, for the next 4 days you will have ethics questions, and we will be meeting again on next Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock to discuss ethics questions. Apart from discussing all those 4 questions, what I will be doing is that I will be giving you analysis of this ethics paper from 2013 till now. This is also I will be doing. So this is how we are going to proceed. As I mentioned, if you have any doubts, you can always post them on the Telegram group. Thank you very much. Best of luck, and take care of your health. That's most important.